Thank you, Victor, for that introduction. Again, my name's, as you heard, I'm Reverend Peter Kegode. I wear many hats. By profession, I'm an investment banker by profession. I've worked previously in investment banking in the US for many years. I've also worked in the agriculture sector, agribusiness sector. I've worked in the maize and grain sector, in the dairy sector, in the coffee sector. I've worked in the cotton and textile sector. So I have a lot of experience in how business is done. Right now, I work with a startup in the US called AVATIST, and it's basically AI and robotics startup. I also have experience working with the retail sector in the US, and I think that is why it will be more appropriate for me to talk about market access in the US for most of the people who are in the SME business who are trying to export into the US, to understand exactly how do you access the US market, how big is that market, what are the challenges, and how do you prepare yourself. Just to let you know that the US and Africa have an agreement called the AGOA trade agreement, and this is an agreement that allows Africa to trade with AGOA on a number of products, close to 6,800 products that you can trade with the US without paying duty and without having a limit in terms of quotas of how much you can sell into the US market. So it's duty-free and quota-free, meaning that there's no duty and there's no quota, no limit on how much you can sell on some of those products. And the reason they give those kind of preferential trading arrangement is because we have countries like China that can actually supply the US market with so much products, but they are given a limit, they are given a quota, so that they don't do what? They don't flood the US market with their products. So once they reach a certain quota on certain products, then they're told you cannot exceed that limit, you have to wait till next year. But Africa, we have duty-free, quota-free. But how much do we trade? We trade very little. Probably our trade between the US and Africa is less than $10 billion. While other countries trade in excess of 50, 70, 80 billion US dollars, ours is still less. And what is the reason for that? It's because there are a number of reasons why we are not able to utilize this market access properly. One is knowledge. Sometimes we don't have knowledge about the market. Also, the other reason is that our products don't meet the requirements. Sometimes we actually produce products that don't meet those requirements. And there are a number of requirements that are needed for you to access the US market. The products must be certified by the FDA, which is the America Certification Agency. They have to look at the product and make sure that those products are safe for being used in the US. Also, some of those products, they make sure that they are not competing with the products which are being produced in the US themselves. So you will find there are some products that are restricted because if they were given access, they will disrupt the US market. When you are trying to get into the US market, the most important is to understand who is your target market. Because the US market is one of the largest and the most dynamic market in the world. Everybody wants to be able to sell into that market. This morning, we had the privilege of having Jas Beatty, who is the chairman of KEPSA, who gave us the keynote access. And Jas Beatty is one of the largest exporter of textile into the U.S. market. He exports in excess of over $300 million of textile every year from Africa into the U.S. market. He has manufacturing plants in Kenya, Uganda, and other parts of Africa, and by far the largest exporter into that market. The other products that access the U.S. market are from countries like Nigeria, Angola, who do a lot of oil and gas, because the U.S. again buys a lot of oil and gas, and some sort of minerals as well. I think we do sell some minerals to America. On agricultural products, we sell tea, but not in a big quantity, and also we sell coffee into the U.S. market. So what are the challenges? What is it that makes it difficult for African entrepreneurs to have market access or really to play in the US market? This morning, we had the privilege of understanding the creative sector, how challenging it is, what you need to do, how you need to prepare yourself to get into Hollywood or to even get too close to what Hollywood is all about. But now, let us look at business itself and products. What do you need to do so that your products can access the US market? And I think one important thing is to understand your target. Who are you targeting your product to? So understanding the target market is very important. Then the second thing is to understand the pricing model. How much are you pricing your product? Once you know how much the product is going to cost you to manufacture, to package, to ship, to distribute, and then to get a profit on it, it gives you an idea of how you cost that product. But the most important thing, how America consumes products from Africa, is not so much the product itself, it's the story or the narrative that you're selling, because it is the stories that sell. What is it that you're selling about your product that is unique? What is it that is different about the product of your product from the next product? Why should they buy your product? So I think the way you put your story together, the way you package your story, the way you present your story, the presentation is more important than anything else. I've seen products out here that have been very well presented, very good packaging. So presentation is very key. How do you present your product? It has to be presented in a way that it is appealing to that market. Even if you are selling Sukuma Wiki, you still must package it well so that it can appeal to certain class. Then the next thing is value addition. You need to add value to your product. How do you enhance your product so that there is more value into it? If you're selling avocados and you're selling them in a sack, the price you're going to get from selling avocado in a sack is different than the price you're going to get if you have, for example, processed your avocado into something like guacamole or into a paste or even into avocado oil. So you'll find that someone who is selling avocado oil is making 20 times more than someone who is just selling an avocado, because there is value addition into the avocado oil than avocado itself. So if you're in avocado business, for example, then you have to look what exactly is the most valuable part of the chain that I need to be in. Should I just be selling avocados or should I sell the avocado oil? So you have to look the one that will give you the maximum and the most returns. That's very important. The other next important thing is to look at the shelf life and the label. Americans buy things by labeling. They have to look at the label and the expiration date. If the item is expired or if the expiration date is near, then they will not buy that item. So again, when you are doing your packaging, the expiration date must be intact. It must be valid for your product to be bought. The other important thing is your product must have what you call a barcode. You have seen a lot of products that have a barcode here. You know, it's the lines which have been introduced to be able to allow that product to access the retail system. If you're going to sell maybe to a store like ShopRite, and they say, okay, bring us your coffee, and they put it into that store, you have to understand that ShopRite would like to carry your product in other stores as well. And I think that is where we have a challenge as Africa accessing the US market, because sometimes we don't understand how big the market is and how tough it is. You might be able to supply maybe 5 containers or 10 containers a month of coffee, but that is only enough to supply 1 or 2 or 3 stores. So if you approach a company like ShopRite, and ShopRite might have maybe 1,000 stores in the US, and you're trying to sell coffee, then they will ask you, can you supply us coffee enough for maybe 1,000 stores that we can have in 1,000 stores? And that becomes a challenge, because then you don't have the capacity to produce that amount of coffee and also the resources. And those are some of the challenges that we have to continue. If you are an entrepreneur and you want to access the US market, you have to know, where do you start? Where do you enter into this market? Chances are that you may not want to go into the mainstream market. You may want to start very small, or maybe even sell your product onto Amazon. Tomorrow, maybe, or later, we will be discussing about logistics, how Amazon or DHL can help buy your product, transport your product in terms of logistics and fulfillment. So for example, if you have a product that I've seen out there, some of those products are health and wellness teas, and somebody in the diaspora orders them online and pays for them through the credit card, there's a payment platform system that Equity Bank will be putting together. Once the payment has been approved for that product, the next step is that DHL will pick your product from wherever you are and take it, ship it all the way to, if the product is going to Atlanta, to a fulfillment center in Atlanta. And then from Atlanta, the product will go to the consumer. If the consumer is in Atlanta, the consumer will get your product within 4 or 5 days of shipment. And that is how the process is going to work. So if you want to engage in trade of export of your product and market access, then you need to make sure that you participate in all those processes. And we will be actually the same way the creative sector here came up, and they're doing masterclass, they're training the people on the talent development and how to do film and theater. It is the same way we're going to have a class that will train entrepreneurs on how to do trade. How do you package your products? How do you prepare your products? How do you process them? How do you manufacture them? How do you seek your market access? How do you get it funded? And then how do you scale your business? So knowledge becomes very important. You need knowledge. You need to work with the people who have done it, experts who know how to do it. We know in terms of shipping products, there's nobody who does better shipping than Amazon. Because if you go into Amazon right now and open their app and you look at your product you want to buy and you pay, if you are within the areas where they will ship, they will obviously tell you that your product will be available in 7 days. And you can even track the product where it is. They will tell you now the product has left the store. It is now maybe in another shipment. Now it is in Atlanta. Maybe it is in New York. Now it's in Nairobi. When it arrives in your doorstep, they even tell you it has already arrived. Because the person who delivers the product there at your doorstep, he has a camera. Immediately they deliver the product. They take a picture of the product at your doorstep, and they send the report that the product has arrived, and you get a message that your product has arrived, and you collect it. Now, in Africa, we have a challenge because our system of address is not organized. So how do you ship a product to people who don't have an organized system of address? I think that last mile challenge is always a challenge. How do you do it? And that's why you have not seen Amazon come to Africa to do door-to-door shipment, because this is something that works well in the first world. It works well in Europe, America, France. They already have that organized system of shipment and address system and zip codes. But now, if you are in Kenya and I'm in Mathare, for example, and I order a product in Mathare, where exactly will it be delivered? Or Kawangware, where we don't have a very structured, Those are some of the challenges you find that some of these big companies have not really come into this market because they don't understand this last mile delivery, how it works. But you and me know that the boda guy can deliver something to your doorstep, isn't it? If you order from boda, he'll deliver it within a minute or 5 minutes, you have a product at your doorstep. And these are some of the things we are trying to see. How can technology be incorporated even into some of these very structured systems to allow the last mile delivery to take place so that products can actually come from, if you're buying from overseas and you want to buy a product and bring it to your doorstep and there's no system of delivery, how can that work? So it has to be two ways. Us trying to access the market there, but also us trying to buy from outside products that can come directly to our addresses. So the logistics becomes a very, very important aspect. How to develop the logistics system, how to make sure that the logistics system is working, and how to finance entrepreneurs who want to go into that space. In Kenya, we have so many entrepreneurs who are doing a lot of amazing products, especially if you look at our arts and the creative sector. We have so many products that are appealing that can be sold out there. But again, the challenge is these people who produce these products are not in those markets and they don't have capacity to ship these products into those markets. So they have to depend on agents who probably buy from them, consolidate these products, and then maybe sell these products to those markets and hopefully pay them when they get paid. But what we're trying to do now is to develop a system where even if you are not big enough, you can still have your product, if it's done well, packaged well, you can still have someone buy that product and you are able to ship it using platforms like the e-commerce platforms that is being piloted by DHL, and you will be able to do business and you will be able to access the US market. And the US market is one of the largest markets you can ever imagine because of the buying powers. US buy things in $1 trillion. The amount of money they spend on buying things is in trillions of dollars every year. And they have created every season, there is a theme for buying. There are either Mother's Day where they're selling flowers, there's Father's Day, there is the Thanksgiving, there is the Valentine. There's always a reason to sell something. And all those create a market and a product. So there are always products which are coming into the market and people are buying. I think for us, the biggest challenge we need to do is to find a way to increase our production, but also to diversify and to make our products more innovative and to continuously bring the product, a new product into the market every time. If you look at, for example, the car business in the US, every year there's a new model of a car which is being produced. Every year they're changing something, even if it's just changing the lights. Maybe this year the lights of the vehicle was in a certain way. Next year you find the same vehicle, but the light has been changed and is looking different. Welcome, brothers from Caribbean. Karibuni. So, Innovation is one of the most important aspects of marketing. The Americans will buy your products because they are well packaged and they've got the right information on it. People are looking at the information. They want to read the story behind it. There was recently I saw a bread. And they're very popular, people buying this bread. And I was wondering why they keep on buying this bread. Bread is just bread. No, they said, no, this bread has a very different story. And it's called a killer bread. It's branded a killer bread, and you can see clearly, why would I eat a killer bread? But that's what the brand is. But the story behind it is that this guy actually murdered people, and he was jailed for many years. And then when he came out of jail, he started this bakery. And he started baking bread, and he branded the bakery, his bread, and it became very popular, and it's now called a killer bread. So when you eat that bread, it's, I don't know whether it's going to kill you, but the idea is the brand is there. People understand that brand. So branding becomes very important in terms of your, whatever it is you're producing. What is it that is going to make your brand different from the next? What is it that you have that differentiates you with the next? It is actually the brand that you have. Because the product is the same. There are so many people who do produce the same bread. In fact, if you go into the bread aisle, you get dizzy. You don't know which bread you want to buy because there are maybe 20 or 30 different types of bread. But believe me not, people come buying a specific bread because they know exactly what they are looking for. One is gluten-free, it doesn't have gluten. They're buying one which doesn't have, I think, which is organic. They're buying one which is sliced. They're buying one which is not sliced. So the market is so differentiated. And everybody wants a different taste or a different appeal to what they're buying and how they are packaging. So you always have to understand what is it that your customer is looking for. And sometimes you might wonder the customer is not buying your product simply because maybe you have not packaged it well, maybe because it doesn't have enough information. They are looking for a certain information in there. Is it organic? How is it produced? Does it have gluten? Does it have sugar? Does it have salt? How much? So that nutrition, how much calories is there? They'll ask you these questions. So when you're selling your products, you must ensure that that nutritional information is available, and that's what people are looking for. I think in this market, it's not that very highly segmented, so when you're actually looking for bread, you just want bread, But when you go into developed markets, it is not the same. Developed market is different. Here you might be selling coffee. Yes, you have a good coffee brand. But when you go into the US, they are looking for coffee with a pumpkin in it, coffee that has, I don't know what other flavored coffee. So you will find the coffee has 10, 15 different flavors, and everybody wants a cinnamon flavor in it. Someone wants a vanilla coffee. Another one wants a strawberry coffee in it. Another one wants pumpkin in it. And you wonder, but if they want coffee and pumpkin, how do we do this? You know? It's because of innovation and differentiation. And also the way people want their products, how they consume it, how they buy it, how they transport it. So the market is very dynamic, and that's why you need knowledge. You need to have what you call marketing intelligence. When you are selling or when you are venturing into any market, you want to get into that market, you have to understand what is the intelligence. How do people buy in that market? How do they consume? How do they process? There are people who will not buy your product because maybe you have packaged it with material that is not environmentally friendly. So they are probably saying, yes, I like your product, but I don't want to deal with the packaging because it is a problem for me. And I'm committed to the environment, so I will not buy your product because it's not packaged in a way which is environmentally friendly. So I think we are seeing increasingly the issues of climate change and sustainability coming into the business realm in an increasing way, and people are trying to factor that so that they actually begin to respond to what the market is. So the market is very sensitive, and market access is always very, very tricky and difficult. There are certain products which it is very difficult for you to get into the markets. We know that, let's assume diamonds. Africa produces most of the diamonds in the world are found here. But who is the largest diamond producer in the world? It's not Africa, it is Brussels. It's Belgium. So how come Belgium ends up being the largest producer of diamonds in the world, while Africa is the one that produces? It's because they do more of the value addition there. So wherever diamonds are produced all over the world, the largest people who do value additions are the ones who get credit. Let's look at coffee. The largest manufacturers of coffee in the world are not Africans. They are Germans. Again, the same thing. They buy most coffees from the world, they add a lot of value into it, and they market the coffees from there, and they become the largest producers, you know. So I think value addition is very important for us if we want to create a market, if we want to be able to have market access. We need to also drive the narrative. If you are selling coffee to the US, chances are that the coffee that is being consumed in America has gone through 8 brokers. There are 8 layers of people who have participated in that coffee before it gets into the US. So if you are coming from here and you want to access that US market, believe me, you have to beat all this, you have to crack through these 8 people for you to access that market. And that is why, despite having an agreement of the AGOA, not so much, Africa has not been able to utilize that in a big way because the market access has been very elusive. So what are we doing about it? What we're trying to do is that we're trying to encourage a system where, rather than us going through people who have established this relationship for many years and they are not willing to let you be part of it, is to go and create your own market. Take your products and go and create your own market and grow your own market the way the Chinese does it, the way the Vietnamese does it, the way even the Jamaicans do it. They bring their market for their products from Jamaica and they make them popular in the US, and then they have the Jamaican restaurants, they have the Jamaican coffee that they have there, and that's how they create the market. So even Kenyan products, we need to do the same. We need to make sure that we bring them to the US, bring them to the Caribbean, and let them know that this is a Kenyan product, and that way you create your market, and you'll create market access. So I think that has been a brief discussion about the disruption. Maybe I will take a few questions, if there are any. Or everybody now understands the market? You can now go and sell? Any question? Yes? Brother Godfrey? Brother Godfrey just traveled from Texas. He's also a Caribbean brother. So just welcome to Kenya and Nairobi.
Thank you. Yeah. And this is very good information here. I was just wondering, apart from a forum like this, do you have access where maybe, if you want to call them consultants, or if you want to call them people that, if they have a need that they can refer to or that they can go to, you have any resources that they can check out other than this forum?
That's a good question. Where do you go for expert advice, or where do you go for information or knowledge? If you look at, for example, AGOA and market access, you'll find that for many countries that want to export into the US, there's always a website that says there's AGOA market access, and if you go there, they will show you a lot of what the AGOA is all about, what the agreement is all about. And we say the agreement is about maybe 6,800 products that you can sell into the US market, duty-free and quota-free, no limit. But Africa has only utilized about 10% of that. And in very small selective number of products, maybe oil, and maybe oil and gas, and maybe things like coffee, tea, nuts, flowers, but the large amount of those categories go unutilized because people don't have the information, they don't have the knowledge, and they don't have the capacity to aggregate and actually sustain the big orders that maybe a company like Target or a big group in America may want. So I think those are the constraints. How do we then build an aggregation in Africa where they can actually supply, if it's a good product, and access the market? So I think the government portals have that information, but beyond that, I think you will find that maybe you will need to talk maybe with people who have been experts, who have practiced logistics, and companies like DHL would be a very good resource because they are piloting. Before you came, I just mentioned that they are piloting a process whereby they want to partner with the SMEs to be able to pick their products and then take them to logistics and fulfillment centers in the US so that they can do end-to-end distribution and payment plan for anybody who wants to sell from Africa to the US. Yeah, any other question?
Let's give him a round of applause.